Hi, you guys. Sorry, I'm back. So I got a important phone call for a job interview, and when my phone rings, it stops my camera. Um, it stops my camera, and I had to answer. It just happened. I noticed something in the reading, so I'm back. So what I was saying was that I was so thankful and blessed that I was alive. That when you overcome your suffering, that you are able to end up on the other end, alive, and be able to share your testimony where others. That's where I was going. They're not. A lot of times they don't survive it. So a lot of times someone else has to tell their testimony. Of how how them not being able to go to God, because they did. They couldn't um, trust in God to go to Him to overcome it. So now they ended up here. But I know they ended up with God in a different way. I should say. Get my pages back. Sorry. That's okay. We had the end of April. Yeah. So sorry about that. um, because I was almost done getting right back to that point. But yeah, it's very important to. We're not immune to that. We're going to suffer in life and go through things, um, in life, and it's up to you how you going. Are you gonna, you know, find God and go back, get back to Him to pull you out of it for you to overcome it, or are you gonna stay in it and then either survive to be able to tell your testimony and someone else has to tell your testimony, and and it's still good it's still good testimony because okay, this is a testimony of like this is what happens when you kind of get lost, and when God when you had the option to choose, you chose this way, and you ended up not being able to um overcome it or come out of it, and so you ended up your testimony is um you ended up being with God where you with Him in heaven and not here on earth, and still may be with Him, and someone else has to share your testimony. So it's very important to work hard to try to let God in when you're going through that struggle, so you overcome, and He pulls you out, and you have a good testimony to share with people. Um, so, so that's a good. I love that. I love that because a lot of people don't know that. A lot of because there are some people who feel like, oh, I'm not supposed to suffer. No, you're supposed to suffer. You're supposed, everybody has to go through at some point. It's all about how you choose to deal with it and handle it. So, so now we're gonna move on to the two questions, and it says, when have you felt angry at God? How can Job's story help us express and keep perspective on it? Well, actually, so before we answer those questions, we're gonna go back because the phone call threw me off. So we got to read the scripture. So it's Job chapter 19 verses 5 to 12. And as you know, I read from the NIV version. Verse 5. If indeed you will exalt yourselves above me and use my humiliation against me, then know that God has wronged me and drawn His net around me. Though I cry violence, I get no response. Though I call for help, there is no justice. He has blocked my way so I cannot pass. He has shrouded my path in darkness. He has stripped me of my honor and removed the crown from my head. He tears me down on every side till I am gone. He uproots my hope like a tree. His anger burns against me. He counts me among his enemies. Verse 12. His troops advance in force. They build a siege ramp against me and encamp around my tent. So, and I actually had it marked. Oh Lord, I had something marked. I had it marked in here because Job's story, basically, if you all know Job's story, it's basically about like Job's suffering. It's basically about Job suffering, and if you go back, the reason I went back because I had to make sure I had it correct before I remember it, and it actually was. And we're going to read starting at verse 8. He says, then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. So this is Job chapter 1, verse 8. Starting at verse 8. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied, Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, this is verse 12, very well then, everything he has in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger. Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. So, and God was clear. He said, but do not lay a finger on Job. God's he's gonna be specific. And so God was saying, oh, you can sit down all possession he had, even his children. Okay. Because Satan ends up doing something to the house where it ends up killing his children. So all his possessions get messed with. He loses his children. And at one point when we read, because we reread it, it was verse verse 6. It says, God has wronged me. This is what Job said, chapter 19, verse 6. You know, he had blamed God. He was angry. I can't believe God did this to me, and but he was being honest about how he felt to God, his frustration and anger. But then, despite all of that he was going through, he eventually realized, because at the time he didn't realize it was Satan. A lot of us don't. We realize it's actually Satan doing those things to us. And once he realized, he ends up, asking God for forgiveness. But he despite all that, he still trusted in God. He still served God. He still believed God. He still had faith in God. And that's the thing we need to have. When we're going through, like I'm going through right now, but I still have trust in God. I have faith in God. I serve him. I believe in him. I have not left him. There's some people in this world that actually have left God. They actually thought it was him. They didn't realize it was Satan. And they actually left him and went towards Satan. And I've never left God. And I've had a moment, which now we're going to go to that question, where I was angry at God. And I was shot myself kind of. But and I just love Job's story. Because the theme of Job's story is him suffering and going through. Because the point Sam's trying to make, well, yeah, that's easy because you bless his home, got his hedges, protection, he has all this stuff. It's easy for him to serve you because everything's going good, basically. He has everything and nothing's going wrong. But I bet you stuff start going wrong. I bet you he won't continue to serve you. I bet you he'll turn against you, right? And yeah, he got mad at God at one point, but he didn't turn against him. He's got anger, which is okay. And that's how it is for a lot of us. When we're going through right now, don't turn against God. Don't, you can be angry with him, think it's him, but don't turn against him to where still serve him, still trust him, still have faith in him. Continue going to church, continue going to Bible study, get around some people, fellowship, get around them. So the answer to the first question, when have you felt angry at God? Last year when I got to that car, when I lost my car in September, and I was hurt, because I was like, I had just gotten the car back because I was just in one in June, but it did total out, thank God. And I started thinking, I was like, okay, now, so I was hoping this one wouldn't, but eventually the car ends up getting totaled out because the airbags had deployed or whatever, and I was hurt. And I remember it happened on Tuesday, so that Wednesday I couldn't go to work, I couldn't get the boys to school, but they ended up having a visit with their moms. I had the boys at the time, and so they had to visit with their mom, and I ended up putting them, so they ended up going back to school Thursday. I ended up going to work and all that. Going to work and all that. Going to work. Sorry, I was thinking about going to work. And so I worked Thursday and Friday, then Saturday here. Because I had to push myself through because I'm like, I got to work. I already missed a day, so I pushed myself through. But then when Saturday hit, I was just hurt because I had to rent a car, but I knew because of my credit, from the accident in December 2004, I knew it wouldn't be easy for me to get a car. So I didn't know what I'm going to do, and I remember trying to, because I remember this was in September, so my birthday's coming up, and I already had a plan for me to be off on my birthday. But now this rental car I could possibly lose because the insurance, they sold everything had done so quickly that now it had to come back. So what I did was I paid out of my pocket for the rental. And it was an SUV because I had the SUV. And so I'm paying out of pocket for it. And then, so I remember when I was off that day and the boys were in school, I had went to try to couldn't get, but anyway, going back to the time I was angry. So So it was that week, so I pushed through. And that Saturday, I just felt I was so, like, finally hit me because I was like, my body knew, okay, she ain't working today. And I was so down depressed, and and I'm one of those that, and I feel that way, I don't want to go nowhere. I just want to be in my house. I feel that's my refuge. That's my safe place where I can get God's peace, okay? So, and that day, the older child, just for some reason, was just like kids can sense, but also he had a visit. And whenever they get that visit, he tends to kind of act a little bit, And I'm like, which is normal, but I was just hoping, like, please don't cut up right now because I'm just going through a lot and I was angry. I'm trying to figure out, and I just wanted to be able to all he had to do was just sit there and color or whatever, and he just acting up. So I had to get on him, so I'm screaming, yelling at him, and, whoop, discipline him, and it was just the frustration of what was going on. And I remember there was a time that following week I was like laying in the bed or something. And I remember I was mad. I was like, and I didn't go to church Sunday. That's how I knew. I was like, I was just so down, and I was like, I'm not gonna go to church because I was depressed. I could tell, I could feel it. So I ended up going to church. So then I ended up going to work, that following week Monday. I work Monday through Friday. I'm off on the weekends. Daycare teacher. And so I'm working as I'm working because I'm out and about. It's kind of bring me in. I realized, what was I thinking? What I'm saying? But I remember during that time, I was like, God, I can't believe this, like, I can't, because I remember praying to God, asking him to not let my car be totaled. And that's why I was mad at him, because I came to you and I asked you, I was like, God, I need my car. I said, please don't let my car be totaled. Please don't let my car be totaled. And please don't let my car be totaled. And, because I need my car, let them be able to fix it and don't cost too much. And, and I felt like the prayer wasn't answered. And because the car ended up getting totaled and stuff. So I remember just being mad at him and blaming him. And I was angry. But I knew it wasn't, him, and so, and I knew it wasn't him. And but at that moment I was, but this was like during the day I'm going to work and stuff. I was like, I can't believe I sat there and I was angry with God. And so then I ended up the following Sunday I ended up going to church and stuff, which I know it made Satan angry and stuff. So I ended up going to church and so forth. And but that was, it shocked me because I couldn't believe that I actually got angry at God. Because I've been in that situation before where something wasn't going right or whatever, losing a job or whatever, and I never blamed her for it. I'd be upset at her, but I never got frustrated at God or got angry at God or blamed him or, And so I remember, seeking forgiveness from God. Like, God, I'm sorry. I don't know why I got upset